So my name is TJ. I'm a person in long-term recovery. For me, that means I haven't had a drink or a drug since August 9th, 2016. I have Shane with us here today as our guest on the Recovery Matters podcast. Hey, Shane.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me here. I'm glad to be here. And, I hope through this that, these kind of things, I always tell everybody they help ground me and keep me grounded. And then, I really hope that I can help somebody else with my story that's, in a similar situation.
Absolutely. I'll just jump right into it. I did hear a little bit of your story and stuff, and we met you through TikTok, which is pretty cool. I like that. So when did you start drinking and stuff?
Oh, young man. It was back when I was probably about 12, and an interesting story about the first time that I drank. And my brothers tell it to this day because we're at the point now where I laugh about it a little bit, some of the things I did, because you can't be angry all the time. And, I didn't erase it. I learned from it. So I was 12 years old and I told my parents that I was going to a church party, and it wasn't a church party. I'll tell you that.
Yep.
And I was on my parents' couch in the basement with a plate of hot dogs and a trail of ketchup leading down through the white carpet. And, it sounds funny to like bring that up and talk about it. But like I always say, when you really sit here and think about it, that might have been funny as a kid, but I continued that into my adult life. And that's when it didn't get funny, But
Yes.
it was the start of that. And, I went through high school pretty heavy. And then, I played football, I wrestled, I was really big in athletics. So there was always a party after everything. You know what I mean? There was always the opportunity there. And I just took advantage of every one of those, and I created them. Not only took advantage of them, I created those opportunities. I didn't need help doing that either. I always throw that in there too. Like they can't say like, oh, Shane hung out with this guy, that's why he was bad. I'm sure there's a lot said that, they hung out with Shane, that's why they were bad. But it was never peer pressure. I enjoyed getting drunk. I did. I don't know how else to say that. I enjoyed getting high, I enjoyed getting drunk. And when I was doing it, when I was drinking, man, there was nothing off limits, nothing. And it just progressed, like I said, and through college, when football ended for me, that was one of the things when, I had high school, I had sports every day, then into college, I started off, I had football season. And then once football ended for me, it was over, essentially. I was a full-time partier. That was the only thing at that point in my life that was keeping me away from doing it. And I went hardcore, and I went through, like I said before, I always say I had 25 lives and I got one left. Like I've used 24 of them. I've countless run-ins, police, DUI. I mean, you name it, I did it. I got away with a lot more than I can even say too. And then I got married. Through all this, the thing that's really wild to me is I sit back and I think, and I tell people all the time, like, I'm a rarity of this. Don't think that you can get through 30, whatever, how many years of my life it was by doing what I did. Because most people, I don't know how I did it. The luck of I should have been dead or in jail. There's no doubt in my mind of everything I did. And I was able to keep it together. I got married, had kids, had a great job, was making good money, had it all. And I just kept risking, throwing it away nonstop until one day, like I said, I woke up on my brother's couch, had no idea how I got there, no idea what was going on. And my brother was just standing over me. And he's like, he told me, he said, I had to beat the shit out of you. You're disgusting me right now. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, you're throwing everything away. He's like, get out of here. He's like, you better fix this. You got to do something. And I left, and I went to work, and we have a family business, fourth generation in it. And my boss is my cousin, distant cousin. And I just called him. He wasn't there that morning. And I said, hey, going into rehab. I said, I got to go. And I think he kind of knew where my problems were going to, you know what I mean? It wasn't like people know, you think they don't, but they know.
Yes.
And yeah, he was all for it. And I didn't know about how I was going to pay for it because I didn't know if insurance would cover it. And before I said a word, he assured me that he would take care of all that, go get the help. So, I was very fortunate in that way that I had my job, nothing ever got affected in that. Right. And then, the interesting part of it to me is like, I don't know to this day. I can't answer why I went in that day. Because there was other times when people were like, well, didn't you think you were going to lose it all before? It wasn't the first time you woke up after Amy was throw you out or whatever. And I'm like, no, I was like, but I don't know. I knew it was just to that point. I had to do something, or I was at that teetering point where it was either I'm going off this side or this side. And this side, there's no bottom. I was going down forever. And That's just what made me make that decision. So it was a long life of partying, and it wasn't, I didn't drink to drown my sorrows. I didn't drink to do anything else. I drank truly, obviously I cut at the end, I just drank constantly, but
Hmm.
through it, I drank because I liked to party. I was
Yeah.
a partier. I was fun. I was the dude that was doing all the stupid shit. The guys that would making the scene at the party, life of everybody, giant, the funny guy, and that's all cool at the time, and you think it is, but it's not. And it's just I love being drunk. I can honestly say that. And right now, I couldn't even fathom going back to that again. Like I have zero interest. It doesn't even go through my mind anymore.
I like the way you described your moment of clarity, and it's like you're looking at this point, and like for some reason it just all clicked right then and there. So at that point you entered rehab.
Yeah, so I went into rehab inpatient. I called, after I got off the phone with my boss, I called my wife, and at that point I didn't think she was going to answer. I thought I was done. I'm like, this is over. She's taking the kids, leaving. I don't blame her. But she answered, and I told her, I said, I need you to take me to rehab. I need to go in. She's like, where, what? I said, just drive me there. I know where I'm going. That's all I need. I said, I'll take care of the rest. This isn't your responsibility. Take me there. I got it. And she dropped me off, took me with the kids, and that was probably I'm not really an emotional person, but that was one of the things that got me choked up that day was watching my wife and kids as I went into there.
Hmm.
My kids had no idea at that point what I was doing really. And it was terrible. It was probably the worst feeling in the world. And I think that humbled me a lot right there.
Yep.
I went into the detox first, and that's where I kind of, the whole system I don't necessarily like because I went in there and the first thing they wanted to do was, which I kind of disagree with unless it's needed. There is times it's needed, and I'm not saying it's not, but they wanted to just give me medicines like unlimited pills. And I didn't want that. I already have an addiction problem, dude. Like, and I know sometimes that you need things to wean off of things. I get it. I do. I understand the science of it, but I didn't. And I said no, and I declined them. I didn't take one thing. It was miserable for a day or two, and I know that sometimes people say that isn't good, but that was just my mentality. Was it was shut off. I'm a hard-headed person, and it was shut off. I shut everything off, and I went through the detox, and I went into the general, area there, and some of the stories, I'll tell you a couple of things that like I learned in there, and it was great because one of the things that really hit me and made me realize that this is real is like there was an old guy that came in. He was an old biker dude, and he came in to speak to us, and I was sitting in the back. And at this point, mind you, I'm terrified to see somebody I know. I'm in a local rehab where I live, and I was into a little bit of politics at the time. We have the family business. I was really involved with the school. I was a high school football coach. So it's a bad look on my part. I did not want to see anybody. And so I'm sitting there and he's like, how many of you are terrified to see see somebody in here or whatever? And I'm like, me, dude. And I'm like terrified. And he's like, how many times were you smashed in a bar acting like a fool, puking on the street, doing something in the police car, being an idiot? He's like, were you embarrassed about those times if somebody saw you? And I looked at him and I was kind of like, no, not really. And he's like, in his exact words, and I'm sorry, my cousin or whatever.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
But he's like, then why in the fuck would you care if somebody sees you trying to help yourself get better and do the right thing? He's like, because if that person cares, fuck them. He's like, they're done. You don't need them. Those are the people you're going to cut out anyways. If you want to get this, true sobriety. Then that like hit me really hard at that moment. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, fuck it. I'm like, I don't care what anybody thinks. And that's when I turned the corner of like really trudging at it, not just going through the motion a little bit. It was like, I don't care. I have to fix this. I'm going to do it. And then, I went through and I learned a lot while I was in there. I met a lot of people, saw some people in there I didn't know. And, unexpected and somebody I never would have expected in there. And they said the same thing to me. And I went to them and I said, I want to get out of here. I said, it was a 30-day program I was put into. And I went after 8 days and I said, I want to enter your intensive outpatient program. I don't want to leave the program, but I don't want to be in here. I said, I don't believe truly this is what I need right now. I said, I think I needed to come here. But I don't think I need to be here 30 days. And they fought me on it. They told me that the insurance wouldn't cover it and this and that. And I was like, listen, I'll figure it out. I don't care. I need to go to your intensive outpatient. I said, I have a job, I have a family and things at home I have to take care of. And that's part of recovery to me was doing that in my mind because I was failing at that before. So I'm like, I got to fix that too. I said, I got to do this. And I know it's unorthodox a lot of times, some people say, but and they were against it. And finally, you know, like the last straw for me was, and it's another thing that stuck with me the whole time to this day, and I laugh about it now, is when I was leaving, one of the guys there said to me, looked at me, and he was like, I'll see you back here soon. And I was like, nah, fuck, you won't. I was like, you won't. I looked at him, you never see me again. I said, if I do see you again, I'm going to remind you of that. And I turned around and I walked out, and I kept that right here forever. And it's still right here. I still think it, because I'm like, you know, that feeds me. That's how I am. Like, it feeds me, and you're not going to beat me. I'm going to defeat you every time. I'm going to win. It's just the way I am. And I left and I went into the outpatient program, you know, and even though the inpatient program wasn't for me, their outpatient program was phenomenal. I still credit the counselors there today. I still try to reach out to them a little bit on email. I've went back there and talked a little bit. It was phenomenal. You know, I did it 3 days a week for a while. And, you know, I mean, I stayed in it longer than most. They actually they could have discharged me at 6 months. I stayed a year because I wanted to. And I just kept going back, and I would go a little less here and there, you know, when I like getting back acclimated to being a real human again, like I always say.
Yeah.
And I'd go back sometimes and, you know, but it thinned out. And then finally I said, I don't need to go here anymore. And that's when I left the rehab and went out and started doing my own thing. And I started, you know, a little bit, I went into some online mentorship stuff, did some of that. And, you know, I kind of got out of that. And because, you know, one day I had a really good friend of mine who was actually a little older than me, friend of my parents actually originally. And I got a phone call from his son, and he said, hey, you got to help me, man. My dad's bad. I don't know who else to call besides you. He's like, I know you've been, and I used to party with his dad a lot. So It was like, I knew. I'm like, all right. I'm like, I got this. What do you want to do? He told me what was going on. I said, don't lie to me. Tell me everything. I'm like, because you need to know everything. And I'm like, he told me, and it was pretty bad. And I went over to their house, and I, you know, saw him, and he was not in good shape. You know, looked as worse as I've ever seen him. And he listened to me. It was shocking. I didn't think he would, because he was more hard-headed, or as hard-headed as I am. And when he listens to this one day, I'm going to laugh, because he's going to know who he's talking, but he's going to know exactly what I'm talking about. and I said, you're going, dude. I don't, there's not an option here. You're going. Your son's already paid for this. He's already got the money arranged. He's called. He found a place in, you know, North Carolina where you can get away from all the people here. This is where you're going. And he just kept beating around it. I don't know why, what's going to happen. I'm like, just trust me, dude. I'm like, if you've ever trusted me once in your life, trust me, go. And he went and came back, and he's been sober ever since. Loves it, lives a whole different life. We were joking about him the other day. We were sitting watching a sporting event with, you know, some of our family and friends, and he's sitting there and he's like, you know, and he said it to my dad. That was the funniest. He goes, who'd ever thought I'd be sitting here sober with Shane as my sponsor? We were just known as like those guys. And it came full circle then. And that's when I laughed, and I'm like, you know what? I was like, this is it. And I really like it. That's kind of stuff that grounds me. I speak to high school football teams pretty regularly. Like I said, I was a high school football coach for a long time. So I just recently went to a high school locally and talked to the kids. And, you know, like I told the kids, I said, you know, I get it. I was in your place. I said, there might be some of you in here that are like, fuck this dude. Who's this guy? Let him. But there was about 4 or 5 of them that I saw in that room that I had eyes locked with that were into it. And, you know, we shook hands. Those 4 or 5 came up, and, you know, we talked, and they shook hands on their way out. And, you know, my mind, if I can impact one of them, then it's a win.
Yes.
You know, even if it's one, I don't care if I can impact more, that's a bonus. But if what I said sticks with one of them, it's a win. And it's a win for me, because I always tell everybody that, and I'm not shy to say it. I do a lot of that to help others, but I also do that to ground me.
Definitely.
Because, yeah, like I don't do AA. I never got into that. I like I said, I was always a little unorthodox. So those types of things are my grounding. That's what I use. I use my reach and the good I can do to keep grounding myself.
Are you ready to make a difference in the lives of others? If so, then you should consider becoming a recovery coach. Recovery coaches are trained to help people in recovery, seeking recovery, or struggling with addiction. They provide support, guidance, and resources to help people on their recovery journey. CCAR Training is the leading provider of recovery coach training programs. Our programs are designed to teach you the skills and knowledge, what we call the science, while giving you an understanding of your own art needed to be a successful recovery coach. We offer a variety of training options, most offered online. If you're interested in becoming a recovery coach or just learning more, I encourage you to visit our website or contact us today. We would be happy to answer any questions you have and help you get started on your journey to becoming a recovery coach. We hope you'll visit us at www.addictionrecoverytraining.org to learn more.
I had a really similar experience. I had been to rehab like a whole bunch of times in my life, and like, I don't know, the last time, basically, like, I had a very similar moment of clarity where I was like, all right, I'm going to go to Detox. I'm going to get everybody off my back, right? I sat in Detox, and they were like, you're going to go to inpatient or you're going to die. And I'm like, nope, like, I'm not. And I went to outpatient. I've been sober ever since, right? And like, the thing is like, we're big on that messaging at CCAR, right? We like to treat people as a resource. And like, as a person who knows firsthand, like, sometimes like with that, you know you better than anybody else knows you, right? And like, it's about
100%.
Yeah, it's about navigating and finding out what you need.
It is. And that's why, like I say, in another, thing that I did that was pretty unorthodox was I was around alcohol a lot.
Yep.
Because my job, I entertained sales, people, sport. I don't have a choice. I couldn't do my job. I couldn't go to just regular work functions because it's everywhere, as you know. Every dinner, everywhere, whether it's a glass of wine. I'm not saying people are getting like I did used to, but there's always the presence of the alcohol. So, like, and I say to this day when people ask me, it don't bother me. Like, it did, I did avoid it. I shouldn't say that I was around it right away.
Mm-hmm.
I did miss a couple events and festivals that I used to go to that just were not. You have to be smarter. You have to use your head. I'm not going to go to a place where there's nothing but partying going on at that time. So, I skipped a couple of those events, but in my mind, it's, I always like nowadays use David Goggins as his one quote, and I can't remember the exact wording, but, he always says that I don't give a fuck what it is. Your mind can overcome anything.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what it is. And I know that's an extreme like thought, but there's a lot of truth to that. Because, if you would tell somebody that knew me beforehand that how I was going to quit drinking and the progression I was going to make, there's nobody that would have told you that was going to work. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you right now, nobody that would have said it was going to work. And, but I did, because my mind, failure just wasn't an option. I didn't care. There was pain, there was suffering, it sucked, there was humility, it was miserable, but I'm not failing. And I think that's a lot of the key to it is, to never forget where you came from and what you did. But at the same time, look where you're going. Like, I look at my future, and in the past 5 years, man, I've accomplished more than I accomplished in the first part of my life before I quit drinking in 5 years. Like, it's insane to me. I'm partnered in multiple businesses now, getting into different things. That side of it, my relationship with my family is totally better and different. And I always tell everybody too, my circle of friends is so much better because it's so much smaller and so much tighter.
Mm-hmm.
It's not whoever's there for that moment. It's not the party that night. It's just the group of people that care about you. And
yes.
That makes a big difference too. That's part of it as well, as the people you surround yourself with. I just got back from Fort Lauderdale on vacation for 9 days, and there was 8 adults there, and 7 of the adults drink. And my wife will still have a social drink. She didn't for the longest time, but I knew she would like a social drink. And I told her, I said, just please have one, because I don't want to be the reason you don't. I don't want my problems because you're normal with this. You can have a glass of wine and stop. I can't. That's my problem, not yours. That's the way I looked at that. And, for a long time, she wouldn't, she wasn't going to. And, I think it was like 3 years or something. And then, she still doesn't drink. Like, doesn't drink like I consider drinking.
Yep.
She'll have a drink, but, and there was people there that do drink pretty heavy. They're not anywhere near like what I was doing, but they would drink beer throughout the night. And I stayed with them. I went out to the bar. I've got to that point in my life now that I have the confidence. And like I said earlier, I probably used the wrong wording when I was telling you. I said that it don't even cross my mind anymore. It does cross my mind. It always crosses my mind, but I don't have the itch to drink anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the urge to drink anymore. Like, when I think about it, it truly turns me off, because I think I was such an extremist with it. Like, I drank until I passed out. There was no enjoying. I drank until I woke up in the morning from blacking out. There was no different. So that, I think that's part of the reason. But yeah, I mean, I could go on for days about, stories and things that I learned. And like you were saying, you were in and out. This is a funny story, and I always say that, I have a lot of friends that went in and out of rehab multiple times. And I said, I told myself I was doing it once. And I was arguing with a guy, not arguing, but like we were having a conversation
Yeah.
in there one time, and it was while I was in inpatient, and he asked us why we were quitting and why we were doing this. And I said, my kids, my family. And he's like, well, if that's why you're doing it, you're gonna fail. And it was another one of them moments, and I'm like, no, I was like, no, respectfully so. I was like, no, I'm not. And it probably wasn't the right thing to say at the time, but he kept on me pretty hard.
Okay.
And I'm like, he's like, you need to want to for yourself. And I'm like, I understand that. And I do. I said, but that's my motive. Those kids I can't explain it to you. I don't know how to say it. I'm like,
Mhm.
that's what it is. And he's like, that's not going to work. And, and then I made the comment. I'm like, well, you've been in and out 18 times, you said. I said, what makes you know more than that? How do you know? I said, everybody's different. I said, I'm not insulting you. I said, but maybe it took you a lot more than it could take me, or maybe my mind works different than yours. And it does. That's why I think that the mind controls a lot of it, because I can tell you right now, as far as consumption of drinking and extremism on the addiction, I'm at the top of the spectrum, my man. I would house a handle of Tito's, Captain Morgan, and be functionable. You know what I mean? Drink a half gallon and function. Like, it was that bad. So like, I was at the peak of consumption. So I know that your mind can overcome anything if you really want to do it. And that's the thing that I always preach is, nobody's going to tell me I can't do something. Nobody's going to tell me that. I'll find a way to do it if I want to do it. And that's what the approach I took, man. And I just ran with it, and I still do.
Yeah, I think for me, like, and I think this is with a lot of other people too, there's this aspect of like entering rehab to appease others, right? And like, from your story, what I'm taking from it, right, it sounds like you were really engaged in that, like, no, this is what I want to do. You woke up and you made the decision. Like, there's been times, and it's like, mom's like, hey, you should probably go get some help, and like,
There's a lot of those times.
yeah. But like, I think that's a part of it too. And like, I don't know, like, when I entered rehab the last time, I don't know if I generally understood what to expect. I just know my life was shit at that point. And like, I feel like I didn't have much other options. And that was the best thing to do. And like, I've been sober ever since, right? But I think it's a lifelong process, learning how to work through those difficult situations, which you kind of discussed. And like, I when I was about a year and a half sober, I got my own place for the first time. I stopped living with my parents. They moved down south. My mom came up to visit. She had a friend over. They bought a 6-pack of Coronas, and they split. They each had one, and they split another one. And then they put the other 3 in the fridge and forgot about them. I left them in my fridge, and my sober friends would come over and be like, "Oh my God, you got beer in the fridge! You got beer in the fridge!" And I'm like, yeah, whatever, like, I just didn't like think about it. Like, I could have opened that fridge at any time and drank those, and like the juice was never worth the squeeze, right? And like, it's just
What you just said is it. You got to weigh your pros and cons on every decision you make. And I never used to do that. Like, like you just said, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. It's not. It's not worth it. And one thing you said right there that I was just writing down real quick that made me think was, how to change it. I had a football coach one time in college that told me something, and it was as simple as I was stepping with the wrong foot when we were running a zone.
okay.
And I said, all right, I said, I'm going to quit doing that, or something along those lines. And I remember he said, no, you're not going to quit doing it. You got to replace it with something. He said, you have a bad habit right now. You can't quit a bad habit. You need to replace that bad habit with a good habit. And he said, so here's what you're going to replace it with. Start doing, whatever motion it was. We stepped, and I stepped, and I'm stepping at a 45 the right way. And that kind of stuck with me, just those little things like that, because, drinking was everything. I would find a way, no matter what, I would find a way. I wasn't going out drinking. So I really lived by too that, you hear people say, if you channel all that energy into positivity, where can you go with it? And, now my biggest fight with my wife and some people are I work too much. So it's like, which I'd much rather have that argument than before. But it's like, and I always explain to everybody is downtime's bad.
Okay.
And I vowed from the start not to give myself downtime, and it's worked. So in my mind, I'm not varying from that.
Mhm.
I hear people all the time tell me, slow down. No, I'm not. I don't care what you say. I could be stressed. I may die at 65 as opposed to 75 because I live a more stressful life now. Cool. If I keep drinking, I'll be dead at 40. So it's like, to me, it's again weighing those options. That's how you got to do it. And that's the way I look at it is I spend a ton of time doing things. I'm busy. I'm stressed a lot. I'm on the move. I'm into multiple different things at the same time. And that's just what I replace the drinking with. Every night I go outside on my porch and I smoke a cigar.
Nice.
I iron through some work things and I just sit there by myself no matter what. I do it every night. I'm pretty religious about it. It's rare that I don't do it. And I even do it on vacation or whatever. I'll go walk. I'll take the kids and my wife, they'll go to bed and I'm out. I walk out the door, and like in Fort Lauderdale, this is kind of funny. Like, and people were like, man, it's amazing. People that my one buddy just said, he's like, I'm amazed that you can do that. I leave the hotel by myself at night at 11 o'clock at night in Fort Lauderdale, walk down A1A past the elbow room, every
Yep.
huge bar, everything that's there. And I people watch, dude. And it's like entertainment to me. And he's like, I can't believe you can go down in that environment. And I'll walk in there. There's nobody to know you did it. You could get away with it easily and nobody would ever know. I said, but I would know.
Yes.
I was like, I would know. I said, so that's why I don't. Like,
Yes.
and that to me, I'm like, I lost my battle if I do that. I said, then I'm back to fighting another battle to win the war. I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I like, even at that point, I'll go out by myself, smoke my cigar, walk down the street, walk back up to my room. And a lot of the times I see those people on the street or fighting with the cops or whatever's going on. And it reminds me that was me times 10. And that's where look at that idiot. I'm like, it's not me again. Like,
Mhm.
if that was me, I don't judge him. Yeah, I'll say, look at that idiot, because he is an idiot at that point. I have no shame in saying that. But I was there too, so I can say that. I was probably worse than you were. So I did it. And those kind of things, and then you got to eliminate, like, you got to be comfortable in your own skin, they say. And to me, that was comfortable with what I'm doing. And I owned it. Like, to this day, I always, when people ask me if I want to drink, it still happens. You know what I mean? It's going to happen forever, wherever I'm at with, especially with my job. I entertain a lot. So it's going to happen forever. And I just say no. And if somebody asks, I'm like, well, I'm drank 5 years. I was bad, recovering alcoholic. And I don't have a shyness to say it at all. And usually it leads to a positive conversation with somebody. But, like when we're out sometimes to avoid that with just other people, like I'll like the Topo Chico, the lime flavored water, whatever, I'll carry one of those around and I drink it. And it's not just for the perception, because to be honest with you, I'd give two fucks what anybody thinks of my perception.
Mhm.
I'm worried about me. It's for me, that in my hand, that it's just, I don't know, that may seem stupid, and it's probably going to hurt me in other ways because I get yelled at by my friends and my wife, but I wouldn't carry around an energy drink. If it's not Topo Chico, it's like a Celsius or something, So, and I just do that all the time and I drink them all the time. And they're like, I'm like, listen, these 4 Celsiuses are better than the 45 beers or handle of Tito's I'd have drank. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And, slowly I will wean myself off of those, but it's funny, but like, I always have to, it comes back full circle to what that coach says. I replaced every bad habit with a different good habit.
Yep.
I didn't really quit my habits. I just replaced them.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. When you were talking about a lot of things, you were talking about like walking down the strip at night, and like I was thinking about something we say here all the time, and recovery is a self-directed process that has to come from within, right? That like, yeah, we may find solace in whatever, like supporting anything, but like in the end of the day, like it has to be me and it has to be my process. Like I truly have to want to be engaged in my recovery. Even at 8 years sober, I have to do the things that help support my recovery, regardless of friends, family, any type of obligation. I'm a father, all those types of things. Like it has to be a part of me and who I am. Otherwise, I'm not going to make it,
Yeah, no, that's spot on. And even like, today I came home, rushed home. My kids wanted to talk to me. They wanted to do this. They wanted to do that. I'm like, hey, I got to go up here and lock the door. I got to talk to somebody. And it's, that to me, this was important to talk to you today
Hmm.
because it's part of my recovery. And everybody forgets that. Like, you're helping me right now. I want to be helping you. I want to be helping other people, but you're helping me. Being here right now and, talking to you about that, that helps. My wife always says that to me. She's like, you need to talk to somebody again. When I get grumpy or something, I get pissy. She's always like, you need to go talk to somebody. She said, you're a different person when you do that. She's probably right. I don't see it. I'm always like, well, what are you talking about? But she's probably right. I probably am. And, and another thing that you said there that I just jotted down that made me think about it was, I always like to tell everybody too, and I didn't mention it here, I'm very direct when I speak and I'm very direct about everything I do and I don't hold back. I'm not shy, but that doesn't mean you have to do that. If somebody's listening to this, maybe it is for you, but my way might not be for you. The thing that I want to tell everybody is for everybody is your mind's the strongest thing you got. So you may not want to, I just like my buddy, I told you that, his son, we called and he went to rehab not long ago. He came back. He's all in on the 12-step program. He's
Yep.
all in on church 12-step. Cool. That is freaking awesome, dude. I'm so happy for him. It's just that wasn't me. It wasn't my path, but that's his path and it's working. Don't change it. That's what I would tell him. Don't change it. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Do what you're doing. That's working.
Hmm.
Learn from other people, but don't think because you're doing something different. It's wrong. As long as it's working for you, good. Do it.
Yes.
I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's working out, if it's physical exercise, if it's reading, if it's me like obsessive working and trying to open different businesses and doing those things, whatever.
Hmm.
If it's any of that is going to be better than the alternative. And that's the way I look at it. And I won't vary from that. And I stand hard on that. And I tell everybody that it's your mind. I keep preaching that over and over again because I wholeheartedly believe that, like obviously you need there's physical addictions. We all know that. That's the science of it's real. And I felt that, the detox and everything like that. You felt that. But I still firmly believe that your mind is strong enough to overcome that. And I'm proof of that. I mean,
Yes.
somebody can't say you're full of shit because I'm standing here, dude. I did it this way, so it is what some people may not work for them. Like I said, it's just that you gotta commitment, and your mind is the biggest thing for me, and discipline, know your boundaries and roll with it.
Yep. That's awesome, dude. Well, thank you very, very much for coming on and telling your story and giving us some really cool words of wisdom and advice and support. Dude, I appreciate it. It's very, very nice to meet you. It's pretty cool to hear. Like, I'm a big sports guy as well. Like, sports is serious in our house. And it's cool to meet other fellow people in recovery that enjoy sports like I do. So,
Yeah, and that's real quick. That's another
please.
thing for the avenue that I go with sports is I always build a relationship with the kids I coached, and
Hmm.
it's pretty cool because a lot of them know my story, and I employ 4 of them now, 4 high school graduates that I had coached. And like I said, I speak, and then one of the business endeavors that I'm in that I was telling you about is we're opening up a 22,000 square foot athletic facility with some partners of mine, and
Nice.
part of my long-term goal with that is to institute some sort of program where I can keep an outreach program to help kids that are in those kind of troubles or kids that are teetering on that out of that kind of trouble. So those are just little things like that where I feel like if I can help somebody, that helps me. And that's how you got to think. So I appreciate everything, man. It was awesome. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, dude. And that's really, really cool. I think, long story short, where my life started to go down was when I grew out of sports, right? So when baseball ended at 13, I went to smoking weed and skateboarding, and like I just think young people need that type of stuff. Like I think it's so positive. And like now today, I'm heavily involved in sports and I'm sober, right? And like I do all different types of stuff, and like my kid does gymnastics and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really cool. So thank you so much, dude. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too, man. Hopefully we help somebody today.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
See you, man.